Hi, this is Dr. Bharadwaz. I am CEO and Chief Doctor at Fidicus Homeopathy. Today we will discuss on pathology. The changes you can see in the body of a human being who is affected by this disease is pathology. So here what happens is these are the prion proteins. These are the abnormal prion proteins which can enter into your body, and these can convert normal prion proteins present in your body into abnormal prion proteins. This is the main pathology for this disease. How are these abnormal prion proteins are formed in the body? There are two ways it can form. First one is genetic. There can be some genetic mutations in the gene that is going to produce these prion proteins, and because of that mutation, abnormal prion proteins are produced in a person. Next one is misfolding of the protein. Normally any protein that is formed immediately forms folds, that is called folding of the protein. These folding has to be done in a specific way for every protein. If there is misfolding or a wrong way of folding of this protein, this also can lead to abnormal protein formation. These are known as abnormal misfolded proteins. Both the abnormal proteins that are formed due to genetic defects or due to abnormal folding of the protein, these can interact with normal prion protein and are capable of converting normal prion protein into abnormal prion protein that causes this disease. These abnormal prion proteins accumulate in the cells or neurons of the human being, especially in brain and spinal cord. When these are accumulated in the brain and spinal cord, the microglial cells think that these are abnormal neurons and kill them. These microglial cells, instead of protecting the neuron, kill the neurons. Over a period of time, all the neurons are killed and your brain is empty without neurons. It becomes sponge. That is the reason we call this as spongiform encephalitis. What happens is every time a new neuron is infected, it will be killed by the microglial cells. From that neuron, abnormal prion proteins are released. These prion proteins go and infect other healthy neurons and convert the prion proteins within that neurons into abnormal prion proteins, and the microglial cells again identify them as abnormal neurons and kill them. In this way, over a period of time, all the neurons in your brain and spinal cord are killed and your brain is left without neurons. It becomes sponge, it becomes empty. That is the reason we call this disease as spongiform encephalitis. So, and what is the mechanism? Once a prion protein enters into your body, these prion proteins are taken up by the dendritic cells. Dendritic cells engulf these prion proteins by the process known as phagocytosis, and there are two major pathways within the dendritic cells to kill these prion proteins. First one is lysosomes. Lysosomes are a part within the dendritic cells that can kill the abnormal proteins. But what happens in this case is these abnormal prion proteins are resistant to lysosomal activities. Even though lysosomes try to kill them by putting some acid onto it, these are resistant to it and these are not killed, and these escape the lysosomal activity. Once these escape the lysosomal activity, these are taken to another pathway or another mechanism that is known as proteasome ubiquitin pathway. This is also a pathway where the abnormal prion proteins are cut, or these are made into pieces and they are disabled. Even this pathway is not effective for this Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease or for this abnormal prion protein. This abnormal prion protein even escapes this pathway and infect the other prion proteins within the dendritic cell. Dendritic cell is the protector and killer of the microorganisms or the foreign proteins. Even that is completely infected by the abnormal prion proteins, and all the normal prion proteins within the dendritic cell are going to be converted into abnormal prion proteins. These dendritic cells slowly move from one lymph node to another lymph node throughout the body, and finally they enter into the brain by crossing the blood brain barrier. There is a barrier between blood and brain, so it crosses that barrier and enters into the brain cells or the nerve cells. There what happens is these abnormal prion proteins are released into the brain. The neurons present in the brain and spinal cord will uptake the abnormal prion proteins. These prion proteins will again enter into neurons. They convert the normal prion proteins within the neurons into abnormal prion proteins. The microglial cells, which are protector of neurons, think that these are abnormal neurons and kills the neurons. This becomes the cascade. Over a period of time, all the neurons are destroyed and your brain becomes sponge-like organ. That's the reason this is known as spongiform encephalitis.